Hello and welcome to Review of Raw. I am John Pollock, along with Wei Ting, and we're about to go through Raw. How are you?
Not bad. How are you?
What do you think about Cincinnati, Ohio? Did you have a more pleasurable thought of Cincinnati than Kevin Owens did on Monday night?
I didn't even know it was in Cincinnati.
Not until he brought it up?
I just kind of blank out on the city. It means nothing to me.
Well then.
Yeah.
Just one of the endless cities that the WWE traveling circus occupies on a weekly basis.
So I have no opinion on Cincinnati.
Well, that's great. Maybe we'll have an opinion on this show after the next 43 or so odd minutes. Raw on Monday night took place from the U.S. Bank Arena in Cincinnati. And to start off the show, Rusev was already in the ring, all set to go when Roman Reigns came out, and you would have thought that Donald Trump himself marched out here. It was just anger towards this individual coming out with the United States title in the heartland here.
Yeah, guy got booed.
Representing all of these Americans was Roman Reigns, and they hated him. He came out, and what did we get? We got a rematch from Clash of Champions for the U.S. title.
Immediately.
Yes, this was...
Rusev didn't even get an entrance.
We got right down to business. You can't be wasting time on entrances on a 189-minute show.
So clearly the strategy was to start off the show with the main event to counter. What was Raw up against?
At this hour, it would have been the, I guess, pre-election coverage before the debate.
Anything else? Like any big baseball or football games?
I mean, Monday Night Football started at 8:30. Okay. So, I mean, you do have that half-hour jump on NFL.
So this was their unopposed, basically half an hour. That they
Somewhat. I feel if you were dedicating your evening to watching that debate, I think you were probably taking in a lot of the coverage. Right. I mean, whatever they did tonight, I think it was going to be futile. I mean, this number is probably going to be amongst the lowest in history on Tuesday, and I don't know what you could do to combat that.
The fact that they didn't even give Rusev an entrance, though, I mean, suggests to me that they really wanted to get this thing started immediately.
Well, maybe they thought the first thing people see is Rusev coming out. They just can't give people that visual. Yeah. Did this feel like a throwaway show to you, or do you feel that this was a show like any other?
Well, I'll say the main event. I say the main event definitely felt like a throwaway main event. It wasn't even really promoted until it actually happened. So, I would say this felt like a throwaway show.
So this started off as like Rusev and Roman Reigns playing amateur wrestlers. We had Rusev utilizing a front chancery and cradling Reigns, and Reigns coming back and applied a hammerlock, headlock takeover, even kipped up out of a Rusev head scissors. And then Rusev starts working on the back and later the ribs of Reigns, playing off of their match from Sunday night. A fall-away slam sends Reigns to the floor through the first commercial break. Rusev continues working on the back. He hits him with a pair of gut-wrench suplexes. And as Rusev is in control of Reigns, this hateful crowd towards Roman Reigns starts clapping, hoping that Roman Reigns can make this comeback. And then as he breaks free of Rusev's control, it was like they remember, oh yeah, we hate this guy. And then they went back to booing him as he completed the comeback that they were cheering him on for. So I felt this crowd was a little mindless at times and almost forgetting, what's our opinion of this guy again? Because I'm getting into him.
Yeah. It's a really interesting thing with Roman Reigns, where I think they've conditioned these audiences. I mean, I don't know if they have done it, but various audiences reacting to Roman Reigns the way they have conditioned everybody else to boo Roman Reigns upon entering. But the way they structure these matches, he is still playing the babyface with all these hope spots. So it's very interesting.
Way they went through a second commercial break. Then Reigns was using headbutts off the turnbuckle, a flying clothesline. Rusev landed with a spinning heel kick. And then Reigns runs into a Rusev kick. This got a 2 count for Rusev. And then Rusev kicks him. And right on the spine, he goes again, setting up the accolade when Reigns catches his foot, comes back for a Superman punch with a 2, sets up for the spear when Lana gets on the apron to distract, but again, Reigns catches Rusev, pair of drive-bys on the floor, and then he takes Rusev and, as Michael Cole says, sends him into the WWE Universe. And then Reigns followed him into the WWE Universe, and the double countout was administered after 25 and a half minutes.
Man.
I thought this was a better match than Sunday until this finish. You put this audience through 25 minutes for a double countout. I don't care if it's free TV. That is unjustifiable.
I felt so tricked, like, by the end of it. And
did you like the match before? Because I thought this was better than Sunday's.
I just didn't have that much interest. I think the match was fine. Actually, I enjoyed the fact that they worked a slower paced, more technical match. And even Corey brought up here that, these guys are able to be a bit more technical, so they're putting less stress on their bodies immediately following the pay-per-view, which I really don't mind at all. First of all, it helps. It's a benefit to the performers, but it also gives me something different to watch, to see these guys try to perform a different style than what I saw last night, just less than 24 hours ago. So I actually didn't mind the match. I thought the match was good. But, I mean...
unforgivable.
The finish, again, it just reeks of them wanting to try to get as many people to watch their program by putting these two people on their screens for as long as possible. And then, we got you. Psych. Boom. Here's a non-finish so that you came to us, maybe boosted our rating for this half hour, and then now you can go. It just felt like false advertising. And again, whatever. It's not even that. It's pro wrestling, so they could do whatever they want. But at the end of it, I felt like I was tricked.
Now, the next Raw pay-per-view is at the end of October, and it's Hell in a Cell. And this was a finish that certainly lent you towards something like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this was a program in mind when you're thinking of cell matches. Do you think that is what this ultimately builds to? And does this go another month?
Yeah, I think, Cole was really reminding us that this feud is continuing. He was heavily hinting that this is not over. So that seems like a logical conclusion unless they do the main event in a cell.
I think there'll be multiples, but maybe the women won't have a cell match because that hasn't been really in that direction. You had the run-ins with the title match on Sunday, and then this. These could be two of those matches, maybe they'll do all cell matches right down through Nia Jax and Alicia Fox again.
To me, I don't sense that much interest in the feud anymore because, what story is really what story is left to tell here? The hero triumphs. To me, the story is over. I didn't think Rusev really did enough here to regain his heat.
Maybe Roman becomes a Hillary supporter. And he'll be further disenfranchised from a segment of the audience while endearing himself to some.
What about Rusev? Who's he voting for?
Oh, he's Trump.
Really?
He would have to be. Or maybe he's just, maybe he'll go Gary Johnson. Maybe he's a third-party guy.
Okay, I don't know.
We'll let Brian and Nate weigh in.
You're asking me, if a cell is warranted for this feud?
That's what this finish was.
Obviously, yes.
Led you to believe.
But to me, it's just they're doing cell matches because they have a pay-per-view named Hell in the Cell. Is the feud hot enough to warrant, this gimmick that's been so well respected and protected all these years, built by Mick Foley, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels? Of course not. I don't think this feud is all that hot at all. But because they got a pay-per-view named Hell in the Cell coming up, they're going to do a cell match.
They continue to fight at ringside. Both get sent into the barricade from the other. Reigns jumps off the steps and gets hit with a chair to the injured ribs, and then Rusev is going for a chair shot in the ring when Reigns spears Rusev, and unpromoted, we had a big return tonight on this show. The return after a long absence, the Smirk.
Oh.
The Smirk was back.
Was it absent? I didn't realize.
I haven't noticed it until this chair shot brutality with Roman Reigns and the Smirk. And then he teases using the chair on Rusev, but instead he just sits down on the chair and has a conversation with Rusev, and the fans booed his over-sensitivity and civility here towards Rusev, and his music just played as he held the title in a seated position.
But then...
Then what?
He got up and used the chair. Did you miss that part?
I was done at this point.
Yeah.
Oh.
This I didn't understand this. I guess he's trying to tease the audience into thinking that he wasn't going to use the chair. They played the music, and then he got up and actually used the chair on Rusev.
My internal clock maxed out at 30 minutes. I was going to dedicate to these two individuals I've got nothing out of it. So I'm glad you caught this chair shot.
I don't blame you at all. I don't know if the election debate had started by this point, but I wish I could have turned.
These two are going to have a debate, maybe. Each and every week, it's your chance to win a t-shirt from ProWrestlingTees.com. Simply answer the trivia question and tweet @LawRadio for your chance to win each and every Thursday. We also want to let you know about Pro Wrestling Crate by Pro Wrestling Tees. Each month, Pro Wrestling Crate sends you a mystery box full of exclusively designed shirts, autographs, collectibles, and more. Get 20% off your first month by using coupon code LIVEAUDIO. Subscribe today at ProWrestlingCrate.com. Mick Foley is in the ring after the break to address the Best of 7 series and says how the series ended in a draw. The Best of 7 series ended in a draw. How stupid do I sound describing this? Were you a fan of this finish on Sunday, Way? This drama behind
No, I wasn't.
The status of this Best of 7 series. He brings out Sheamus and Cesaro. Both are all banged up from their match on Sunday. Cesaro, Graves described as a mummy. He was just full of tape up here. He looked like Kazushi Sakuraba towards the end. Sheamus tells the crowd to shut up, and Cesaro says, "Why don't you tell them one of your Irish jokes if you want them to be quiet?" Of which this was met with silence. And then Sheamus says he was more physically dominant, and therefore he thinks he should win. He should win on aggression and ring control.
Oh, yes.
Yes. When effective striking and grappling are equal, that's when you defer to aggression and control.
Actually, then he might have been screwed by the judges.
Where were those TNA judges for this match? Yeah. So they are both through with one another, they say. We're done. I'm so over you. And Foley intervenes, saying, both of you are right. You brought out the best in one another, so you're both going to get championship opportunities. You're going to get them together. A tag title opportunity.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
It's a really wacky,
after a month.
Yeah, I know. It's got all the makings of a great romantic comedy. Oh, we hate each other. I hate you. I hate you so much. But then we're forced to work together.
Can't live without you, though.
And through the working together, we develop new feelings for each other. So maybe that's where this is going to end up.
This is beautiful.
Listen, I mean,
if this was the initial idea, okay?
I guarantee you it was not the initial idea.
Then I continue my hatred of this finish on Sunday, this Best of 7 finish, where if you were to tell me, hey, we've got an idea to make a tag team, and we're going to spend a month where there's no payoff at the end. Instead, it is a tie.
Listen, I guarantee you that they had no intention of I don't know what they were thinking when they set up this.
Someone watched Usain Bolt and Andre DeGrasse and their bromance, and they were like, you know what would have been great if they shared the gold medal? That would have been awesome.
I don't know about that reference. That was anyway. But these two, I actually like what they're doing here with the tag team because, let's be honest, this might be the best case scenario for these two. I don't think they were serious with either of these guys getting a real world title opportunity. You know what I mean?
No.
If you had Cesaro,
I'm fine with them as a tag team.
It's really.
But you asked people to follow this for a month.
Yeah.
And you got nothing out of it. We could have had a winner and still gotten to this tag team. You could have at least given us a point to all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're teasing the audience with an outcome to this storyline, and then at the end of the 7 matches, you kind of don't really get that resolution, I agree. I would feel a little bit chipped. But them as a tag team, I don't really hate. I think the division needs new contenders, and
they should get the titles
for sure. I mean, they're kind of your Heath Slater Rhino type of thing. But the thing is, those two, like Slater and Rhino, have like a really odd chemistry, at least comedically and, as a tag team. These two...
I don't want comedy out of these two.
No, not necessarily, but that's kind of the way they're going. They're going to do the odd couple thing, right? You've got Mail, like Sleepless in Seattle.
Which one is Meg Ryan and which one is Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks, I don't know.
New Day took on Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows for the Raw tag titles. You want a quick recap of this feud, Way? They first had a non-title match on August the 1st. You know who won that?
I forget.
The non-title match was won by the New Day.
Okay.
That set up a tag title match at SummerSlam. That was a DQ finish. of which the New Day left with the titles. Then they had a mixed tag with Bayley and Dana involved. You know who won that? The New Day.
Okay.
Then they had a rematch on Sunday at Clash of Champions. You know who won that?
The New Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that necessitated this title rematch because we haven't got it clear cut enough. I don't know why Anderson and Gallows got this tag title opportunity again. This feud has been about one team being so far and away better than the other.
It's been really bad. And like I thought this feud was really bad when they're doing the testicle thing. They dropped the comedy, but the feud just really hasn't gotten.
This is a sleeper for worst feud of the year. It probably won't win,
It's not great.
but it's bad. When you think of the old day.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had a match here. Went through a commercial break again. Gallows and Anderson were in control for quite a while here. Kingston eventually made the hot tag to Big E, who came in, clotheslined Gallows to the floor. Kingston leaped off the steps on the floor. E then got thrown shoulder first into the post. He comes back, spears Carl Anderson through the ropes. After that, Sheamus near death on Sunday night. I can't believe this is still allowed, this Big E spear.
Yeah, he likes doing it.
I don't know why. They hit the midnight hour. Gallows broke the cover, and then Gallows grabbed Kingston, threw him into the steps. And this was Kingston's chance to nearly die because he did his best impression of Paul Felder, if you watched the UFC show on Saturday night.
I would have said Muda, but
That too.
Sure.
Yes. Anderson hit a reverse neck breaker from the top. They set up for the Magic Killer. Kingston saves, and he is just a faucet of blood coming out. He must have just hit these steps with all the fury of Luke Gallows, tossing him here. He ends up hitting the Trouble in Paradise, pins Anderson. The amount of blood coming out of Kofi Kingston.
he got blood on everybody.
He was a mess.
Yeah.
He was just a mess
He was
from this step shot.
Leaking everywhere.
This feud is done. And I don't know what happens
are
to
you
Carl
sure?
Anderson and Luke Gallows.
Are you sure this feud's done?
Oh, you're right.
Why would you say that with any
They probably get a
certainty?
title rematch next week.
Who else are they going to feud? I mean, okay, Cesaro and Sheamus, I guess, now, but man. Anyway.
Review Away returns this Friday as Wei Ting and I will be going back and looking at Vince McMahon's initial heel run in the Memphis territory in 1993. We will go through all of Vince McMahon's appearances during this time period involving Jerry Lawler, the Hart Brothers, and much more. It's a fun edition of Review Away going back to 1993 Memphis on Review Away this Friday at liveaudiowrestling.com. They showed the video on WWE.com from after Clash of Champions where Stephanie met with Triple H, who showed up in a limo, asking, "How did it go?" She said, "Great," and they left together. And we are left with the question, what was Hunter referring to, and were they secretly working together to assist Kevin Owens? And then we got a replay of the super gutbuster that injured Rollins' ribs, where he had to go undergo x-rays earlier in the day, and he has not been medically cleared to compete tonight. Then we had Sheamus and Cesaro still arguing.
Sorry, that just to talk about that injury. I mean, I really think they're gonna try to get this guy to change his style, and not to say that spot
Rollins?
Yeah, and not to say that spot was even his fault, but I think now it's just like he's already been under a microscope, you know, for Balor, for all these other things. But I think this will just kind of force him to make sure he doesn't get injured again. Because what if he's out? They invested all this storyline into him.
Yeah, I mean, this one really was not his fault. But you're right in, like, I watched this guy, and he is just testing his knee for all it's worth. I mean, the amount of dives he's doing, I mean, you're right. If you're just thinking from a purely selfish standpoint, if you're the company, it's like, dude, you getting hurt is going to mess up a lot for us, lest we forget about your own health. But anyway, didn't work the show tonight, but did appear. So Sheamus and Cesaro are arguing when Mick Foley walks in. And he puts over their match from last night, stating he was watching it with Arn Anderson and Michael Hayes, and Mick Foley had tears in his eyes watching this match. So did I during that finish. And says they stole the show, and he can't risk either of them in an 8th match. He won't lose them.
He can't risk
Remember that the next time. If these two never have another singles match on Raw that Mick Foley books, I will applaud them for this. But I do not believe that these two will never, ever, ever have a singles match again because of their well-being. So he puts them over as two of the best who could change the face of tag wrestling and create magic. And I know that Mick Foley credits DDP Yoga for a lot of his weight loss. I never want to play Twister with this man because clearly his flexibility is incredible because he bent over backwards trying to get this finish over from last night 100%. And the negativity that attached itself. Mick was very upset at people complaining about this finish.
Sure. I thought he did a great job here.
This was a great promo from Mick Foley. Yeah. And these are the kinds of promos that is why Mick Foley, I think, is very effective in this role.
Again, he's very much tapped into that screaming promo that I think he was always famous for. But he's able to use it here to turn what I think is a rather laughable situation into something that audiences can try to take seriously. So I thought he did a good job here.
Bayley took on my new favorite member of the roster, Anna Fields.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe it was just the way she was shaking her head in disgust at Bayley's entrance. Anna Fields here attacked Bayley at the bell, was on offense early, then Bayley made her come back. She hit a sliding D, an elbow in the corner, belly to Bayley, and pinned Anna Fields in 2 minutes and 6 seconds. Maybe it's the name. Anna Fields.
I like that name too.
Yes.
Anna Fields.
Yes. And then Tom Phillips interviewed her afterwards, and Bayley says, Charlotte and Sasha proved why they are the top 2 women last night, but we'll meet again. I'm just getting started, and I won't stop until I'm hugging that championship. She is the Snapple of the women's division.
To what? Snapple to?
She's born to be number 3.
What's 1 and 2?
I think they meant Pepsi and Coke back in the day. That was their advertising campaign.
But one's iced tea, the other's soda.
I think Snapple felt it was all under the same umbrella.
What?
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I thought Coke owned Snapple. Don't they?
This was a campaign from like 20 years ago.
Snapple's number 3? If my choices are iced tea or Pepsi or Coke, I mean, I wouldn't even put those into the same category. I don't think you can consider Snapple the 3rd.
Okay, well, let us know, folks, on Twitter.
I would say in terms of iced teas, they might be.
Where does Snapple rank?
They might be number 1.
Okay.
Would you put Nestea above Snapple?
That's the great thing about this country, Way. You can have that opinion, and I can disagree with it. I've never had Snapple in my life.
I don't mind the promo from Bayley. To me, clearly their intent was Charlotte, Sasha this entire time. Sasha got injured, took her out of it. They were going to take Bayley completely out of it, but I don't know what happened those last several weeks with the double pin. But Bayley was in briefly. Now I think they want to start Bayley back from the bottom because they think that's the best way to tell Bayley's story.
Her and Sami Zayn are kind of the same character in a lot of ways.
Except
they're able to. I think they feel we can beat these guys repeatedly because that's the story with them.
But the difference is I think they're actually behind Bayley, whereas Sami Zayn, I don't know what's going on with him. He wasn't even on the show today.
He was, I guess, preoccupied. Yeah. Foley walks into Stephanie's office, and Stephanie asks if Mick has downloaded the new iOS update.
Yeah, they're hip and relevant,
I guess Mick is not on that.
Yeah.
Mick says, I believed in you. And then while I was backstage checking on Sheamus and Cesaro last night, the main event falls apart, and Stephanie just happens to get a replacement referee right at the moment when Owens is recovering, and Owens gets the win. Then she meets with Hunter and says how Hunter asked how it went, and she said it was great. Stephanie just looks at Foley and says, Hunter missed the pay-per-view because he was watching the NFL. No, he was flying and wanted to know how the show went, and she said it went great, except for the main event. And she blames Foley for not protecting the integrity of the main event because that's his job, not to be the medical expert in the back and not to let Mick's ego get in the way. And just runs down Mick Foley, just berates him. And Mick, this was the Joseph Benavidez, Henry Cejudo angry interaction, where Joseph
What?
Benavidez goes, "How many times have you signed on the dotted line to fight and not showed up?" And Henry just looks at him and says, "A couple times. A couple times." And this time Mick Foley just said,
Sorry, I didn't get that reference at all.
"Oh,
What was that
they were the
from?
coaches on The Ultimate Fighter." And Henry
okay.
Cejudo's missed weight a few times, and they were talking trash at one another. And Benavidez just cut him off, saying, "How many times have you signed on the dotted line and not made it to the fight?" And Henry just says, "A couple times." So Benavidez says, "So you shut your mouth until you show up at our fight at the end of this season."
See, I don't know. I think I would have enjoyed that more than this because I think the
Mick was a much better promo than Henry Cejudo.
No, I think the intent here with this scene was to once again have Foley be convinced that Steph was telling the truth. But the way it came across, it just felt like Steph was yelling really loudly, and so Mick cowered into the corner and shut his mouth.
He said, "I was out of line." And Stephanie said, "You be a businessman and go protect Rollins when he shows up from himself." I mean, as a promo, Stephanie was fantastic here. But I feel that
What's the purpose?
I
Did
think
she
the-
achieve the purpose.
I think the purpose is that the payoff at the end of this will be Stephanie is totally messing with this guy
Of
and is
course.
working with Hunter.
Yeah, of course.
And Mick will be proven right
But
at the
the
end.
thing is, though, like I didn't think Steph sounded like she was being sincere and telling the truth. I mean, I guess like
I thought this was a plausible defense of Stephanie.
I guess so.
I didn't mind this, to be honest. I know we get on Stephanie when I don't mind Mick Foley being in this role. And I feel that this is a larger story that you are at least conflicted of whether you believe Stephanie or not. So I did not mind this. This was, to me, a plausible defense Stephanie made.
I guess-
She was the one being accused of being in the pocket of Triple H here.
But I guess
he
I-
questioned her integrity.
Yeah, but I guess I just didn't find myself all that convinced. I feel like they've hit Stephanie's heel character too hard now at this point. And Mick Foley not seeing that just to me makes Mick Foley seem a little foolish.
There's some of that if it turns out he was right all along. But I think the fact that Mick is questioning her, he is on to this. And anyway, I didn't mind this that much. You can check out the Law's YouTube channel at youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling. Subscribe for all of your free videos, including Ask Away, interviews, and much more. Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann took on Drew Gulak and Lince Dorado. There was an insert promo with Alexander stating they need to take their opponent seriously, and Swann says they're going to party all night long because he's the fun guy. That's his characteristic. Fun.
These guys have, what, like 2 lines to try to get themselves over each week? So this is about as much as you can expect.
They aired portions of Gulak and Dorado's CWC video packages. Dorado, who I thought looked okay in this match, did a cartwheel out of a Rich Swann head scissors attempt. Gulak and Alexander go to the floor, and it led to Dorado hitting a moonsault to all three. They went through a break. Alexander and Gulak are in. There was a handspring into an enziguri by Alexander, a springboard clothesline, and then this very awkward-looking lumbar check where Dorado came down at this bad angle, and this crowd reacted as this guy was dead, and he just rolled to the floor. And then there was a spinning wheel kick by Swann to Gulak, and then a bridging jackknife cover, and Swann and Alexander win.
Yeah, they made some changes to the presentation here. They changed the color of the ropes, which we saw at Clash of Champions as well. They're also throwing in the handshakes and the arm raises that we saw in the CWC. No, it doesn't make much of a difference in my opinion, the handshaking and the arm raising. But they're trying to separate these guys. I thought Drew Gulak looked awesome, man. I think some of these guys, I wonder if they weren't brought in for the CWC, if they weren't brought into this cruiserweight division, could you go much longer with these guys by sending them to NXT, giving them, the Finn Balor push, giving them the Nakamura push, having them kind of individually focused on before you bring them up. But
I think some of them you're going to see, like last week, Cedric was introduced on NXT, and it was very much like this guy's going to be sticking around on NXT. So I think you're going to see a number of the cruiserweights doing double duty with Raw and NXT.
that kind of defeats the purpose of NXT, though, doesn't it?
But it seems like that's, at least with Cedric, I mean, they
What's the
put him
point?
over very big on Wednesday as it was like this introduction of Cedric to NXT. It was very backwards when you just saw him on Raw.
The idea of NXT is so that you can work on your character and flesh out all the kinks before you get brought up to the main roster, before you're exposed to the main roster. But these guys are getting exposed every single week. And, in the case of somebody like a Drew Gulak, who's just so talented, it's kind of brought up there to lose and not, be forgotten about.
The Odd Couple have already been booked in their first tag match. It's Cesaro and Sheamus, who Mick Foley was so worried about their health and well-being after last night's match that he booked them in a match tonight. These guys were a mess, physically.
Well, look at the opponents, so.
Well, they took on Nick Cutler, and I'm sorry, he's already replaced Anna Fields. Willis Williams. The best name. I hope it's his real name, because that's an awesome name. Probably isn't. WW. Cesaro hit a delayed vertical to Cutler. Sheamus hopped off the apron, wouldn't tag him in. And then they just took turns, one-upping each other. The crowd got behind, chanting, "Let's go, jobber." And then Cesaro caught Williams with an uppercut. Brogue kick to Williams, then a brogue kick to Cutler. And Cesaro just picked one and pinned Cutler in 3:32.
So clearly, I feel like the only way you can go with these two as a tag team is to push them as a babyface type of team, right? Similar to Slater and Rhino. Nobody's Cesaro's not gonna get booed, But I just, I think it remains to be seen what their chemistry is like. I suppose as a tag team, not just in ring, but also like.
I actually think they could be a pretty good tag team once they get past all the Odd Couple stuff. I didn't really get into this at all with the stupid we can't. I think we've also done the Odd Couple stuff to death. That I feel once these two just start working together, they could be a really great team together. And I think this is a better role for Sheamus in a tag rather than as this aimless singles guy that's just... he hasn't clicked as a singles guy, as a heel or a babyface.
But they will have to find some chemistry as personalities, in order to really get over, especially as champions.
Well, maybe they will go explore cities together. They can do some vignettes as tourists.
Yeah.
Lots of great ideas out there for them. Sunday night on The Law, we will have a full rundown of the TNA Bound for Glory event, which is going down from Orlando, Florida. Plus, we will be joined by Mick Foley, taking your phone calls, and much more. It's The Law, Sunday night, midnight Eastern on TSN 1050 Toronto, 1410 Vancouver, and listen live at liveaudiowrestling.com. There was a TJ Perkins video package, and then Tom Phillips interviewed him backstage. He said this has been his dream since 1998. Didn't think he would make it here. And Brian Kendrick walks in, asking him if he feels good to have deprived him of what he deserves, the Cruiserweight title, which Kendrick says was resurrected for him. Perkins had a great comeback here. No, this title was literally brought back seconds before my final match with Grand Metalik. You were out of the tournament. This was literally resurrected for me and my opponent.
Maybe it was planned to be resurrected prior to.
Well, it was introduced on television after Kendrick was long gone, so that didn't add up. Brian then said, "You owe me for your career," and says the next time they meet, he's going to wake him up from this dream and take the title.
On the pay-per-view, they mentioned, Graves on commentary mentioned how Kendrick used to drive Perkins to practice. Did you hear that?
Oh, I missed that line.
There were just little things.
Viable. They were both in the same California scene.
But to me, that's a huge part of the story that you could have really used to tell. So maybe that's what Kendrick meant with the line. But I thought Kendrick killed it in this promo. I felt like putting him as a heel of the division allows him to kind of really flex a lot of his acting chops, which I think of all the guys, he is the strongest actor here. And on Raw, I feel like that's probably the trait that you need the most, more than any in-ring ability. So I really like Kendrick here as the heel of this division. I think Perkins at this point still seems very inexperienced as a speaker on TV. When he's talking as himself in those interviews, it's fine. But the way they do Raw, it requires a lot more acting and delivering of, scripted lines. So you have a funny line you're about to say.
I'm just saying this could be a future ride-along now with a backstory. with TJ and Brian Kendrick. Comes out and says, you and I were the original ride-along, TJ. But this coming Monday on Raw, we're going to be cruising for that title.
Yes.
Lots of great stuff here.
Yeah. And they can be stuck in traffic so they can be cruising and then waiting.
That's going to be the name of the show. Cruising Waiting. Charlotte and Dana came out. And Charlotte says a Clash of Champions was her night, and she is the queen of the WWE Women's Division. Says people always think that the latest woman to show up is going to be the one to dethrone her, but Charlotte disappoints all of them, forgetting the time she lost the title on Raw just a few months ago and then regained it. So her success rate has not been stellar. She says she's not the huggable Bayley or the internet darling Sasha. She's the moneymaker of the division. So Sasha comes out and says this is her title. Says that Charlotte pinned Bayley, but not her, and she still owed her rematch. Which I don't know how these rematch clauses work. And she calls Charlotte Queen Charles.
Yeah, like Prince Charles, except
I got it.
Queen.
I thought, well, that's the worst insult I'm going to hear tonight. Wrong. Because Charlotte, auditioning here for Jeff Ross's next roast battle, came back and addressed Sasha Wanks. Oh, boy. PG, guys. And she agrees to give her a rematch next week in L.A. because why are we going to give this away tonight against the debate? So they exchanged words. It ended with Sasha slapping Charlotte. She applied the bank statement to Dana. Charlotte broke it up, and then both got sent to the floor by Sasha. So we have a title match for next week. 2 title matches for next week.
Yeah, I thought Charlotte...
Sasha Wanks.
Queen Charles.
Oh, God.
I thought Charlotte came across really well, despite, the Sasha Wanks. I think she's exuding so much confidence and able to command crowds. When she was kind of like initially beginning her heel run, she was like a little bit awkward, trying to seem like, whenever she tried to play serious, it was always like kind of like talking really loud like this and, kind of doing it awkwardly. But now she seems to have like honed her loud talking into something that really works. All
these insult exchanges needed was a WWE Network plug. And that would have capped off just a glowing WWE talking segment. For more of Wei Ting and myself, you can catch Review of SmackDown each and every Wednesday morning. Simply go to liveaudiowrestling.com or subscribe for free to Live Audio Wrestling on iTunes. Seth Rollins arrived at the arena very late in the show, and he's backstage. Mick Foley meets him, says there's nothing that is going to stop him from interfering during the highlight reel tonight, where Chris is going to have Kevin Owens on. Foley says now is not the time, and Seth says, screw your rules, Mick, and says he only hears Stephanie's words coming out of Foley's mouth, and Seth walks off. TJ Perkins took on Tony Nese. This was a non-title match as they announced Perkins and Kendrick for next week. And Graves notes it'll be in Perkins' hometown next week in L.A. Nese got a video package. Corey compared Nese to Neville because of their build and their style. Perkins goes for the knee bar early. Nese gets to the rope, and then Nese does a cartwheel off the apron into a super kick and follows with a Fosbury flop as they went to the commercial break. This looked great. Yeah. And then we come back from the break. This crowd got so restless, and then they just start chanting for CM Punk. And we're just out of this. Later, they were chanting for Randy Savage. It just seemed they really weren't into this, and we're just going to not get behind these guys.
But I don't blame the crowd, because they haven't exactly done a great job of introducing these guys. If you didn't watch Raw last week, if you didn't watch the pay-per-view, you wouldn't know who TJ Perkins was.
Perkins did his double chicken wing into the gutbuster, and then Nese slapped Perkins as he climbed the turnbuckle. Nese blocked the tornado DDT, draped him on the top, and hit a running knee. Perkins came back with a drop kick off the turnbuckle, detonation kick, knee bar, and Perkins gets the tap.
Yeah, I thought Tony Nese looked great. He has a great, hard-hitting, flashy style that just immediately impresses, even if you don't know anything about the guy. I think Perkins is just very charismatic in the ring. I like his entrance, too. I think it's unique. I think he needs to maybe stand out a little bit with his look. Definitely needs a lot of work in terms of his talking ability on TV. But, I think he'll get there. I think with the amount of spotlight and pressure they're probably putting on the guy, he'll get good really fast.
It's a feature for Hispanic Heritage Month on Pedro Morales, and then the highlight reel. Chris Jericho comes out with the list of Jericho, and we got a video response from Ashton Kutcher and Danny Masterson. They're coming to Raw next week.
Okay.
Awesome.
So they are best friends.
Yes.
Evidently.
Yep. They're proving us wrong. Jericho calls it the most anticipated highlight reel ever and mentions Ashton Kutcher threatening him. And now they're both on the list. Gets upset at the cameraman for shooting him from the incorrect side and adds the cameraman to the list. Makes fun of Rollins getting hurt, saying he's never been hurt in 17 years while Rollins has been here a year and a half. Owens comes out, hugs Chris Jericho, and Jericho notes that this is the 6500 Jeritron 5000. It cost $6,500 5 years ago. I could have watched these two go an hour together. He says how Owens is the epitome of the champion. Owens did not wear a suit because this is Cincinnati, the same city that spawned a car wreck like Dean Ambrose, who he calls a bum. Owens says that he is the main event, he is the man, and he goes over people that Rollins is injured like Cena, Sting, Finn Balor, and he took out the most dangerous man in WWE and says, now I'm the most dangerous man in the WWE, which Chris Jericho tried to say in sync with Owens. Rollins comes out, security is out, Fit Finlay was there, Adam Pearce was there, Foley came out, they all stop him, and he's taken to the back as Owens tells him to go rebuild and reclaim your couch after he broke him in half. Then Enzo and Cass come out. They've now got the old-style microphones. As they come out, they go back and forth, and there's this line that Jericho refers to them as Santa Claus and that he'll come sit in Cass's lap. They went back and forth. This ultimately led to our tag match for the night, and that took us into our final match here. 16 and a half minutes these four went. It was a lot of getting the heat on Enzo for a long period of time, and Owens and Jericho just berating him, trash-talking throughout the match. Enzo got his knees up from a lion salt, tagged in Cass, and then Jericho came off the top into a big boot from Cass. Then Cass hit the Empire elbow. Jericho slapped Cass to stop the bada boom shakalaka, and then boots Jericho off the apron to the floor. Enzo got a near fall on Owens with a DDT off the turnbuckle, and then Owens came back, killed Enzo with a clothesline, and powerbombed him, and pinned Enzo clean, just like that. And the show went off the air. Just out of nowhere. It was just, they celebrated, and that was it. That was the show.
Pinfall, you mean?
The pinfall, and then that was it. No Rollins to return.
Yeah. It was a main event that really didn't feel like one. I felt like... I think, the crowd really likes these Enzo and Cass. They really hate Jericho and Owens, or at least they're very much entertained by him. But there was just nothing... There's nothing at stake here, no anticipation built for this match. It was just a match for the sake of a match. And I just found myself wanting the show to end by this point.
As did most in this crowd. I mean, for even the talent that was out there, I mean, this crowd was, pretty checked out of this match. Even by the time you got to the hot tag, I think they had sat through a lot. I think you really run that risk when you do something like you do with Roman Reigns and Rusev, and you invest that time. That's the first thing this audience saw for the Raw portion. You go 25 minutes with an awful finish. I think that really takes the air out when suddenly, well, there's 2.5 hours more to go after this. And I feel the crowd was kind of hurt the rest of the way. So that was Raw. What did you think about it as a follow-up to Clash of Champions?
Appropriate, I guess, because to me, Clash of Champions was just kind of there, too. And that's what this episode of Raw was for me.
Now, they're going against this massive debate and football. Mm-hmm. Last week, they did 2.68 million viewers. Mm-hmm. A pretty bad number. What is your forecast of what the number is going to be this week? 2.68 last week.
I'm going to guess about the same.
You think it'll stay the same?
Yeah.
It won't be hurt at all by the debate then?
I thought last week's was already really bad, and the week before that was really bad. I feel like this is your base level of wrestling fan, probably.
I think it's going to be lower. I don't think it'll be as low. I don't know if it'll be the lowest ever. Mm-hmm. I think if they do 2.3 million, I'd be surprised. I think it's going to be around that level, 2-2, 2-3. All right. Well, that is it. That is the show for us. We are going to be back on Wednesday reviewing SmackDown. Plus, it's the return of Review Away this Friday. We're going to be reviewing Vince McMahon's journey into Memphis as a heel in 1993. It'll be a fun review on Friday. You can catch all of that at liveaudiowrestling.com. We will chat with you then, and you can always catch this show Tuesdays on Fight Network.